and the next panel, I think, how much, it's called Nature Matters, Ecopoetics, but it's also how much poetry matters, I think, that's so important. And we have a wonderful panel this morning. We've got Imtiaz DHARKER, Daljit NAGRA, Jennifer Wong, and Robert Sita. So come on, there's 3 seats.
We won't come on.
You're not coming on stage. How dare you? So we start with Imtiaz, who I think you all know.
Thank you, Rachel. Poets don't need chairs. We stand. Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Rahul and Niloofar, for putting us all together here. And thank you to Khushwant Singh. The image I'll always carry of Khushwant is from his book, Trees of Delhi, of him being dragged through the woods by a 3-year-old with periwinkles stuck in his turban and his beard. And I would add, if I were painting that image, I would add Raat Ki Rani and have him surrounded by his birds from his garden, the sparrows, the crows, mynas, pigeons, and a dozen stray cats, is what he said. I'm sure Khushwant, even though he lived in Kasauli, would never have been detached from the world. He always kept his finger firmly on the pulse of the world, and there was no one better at reading its heart and its health. Ahead of his time, he could see the environmental crisis coming. And of course, today, we're all here to think about rewilding the mind. In a fragile world, poetry can maybe show us how to hold difficult and conflicting ideas at once, to be aware of the shadows and the treasures, and to treasure what we have, to remind us of what we could lose, and respect the space we share with every cell and every insect, to be aware that how we treat the soil beneath our feet will be remembered by the sky. The poets you hear today have all thought about this deeply, and I'll start today with the wonderful poet Jennifer Wong. She is born and raised in Hong Kong, now lives in the UK. Her publications include Light Years and Letters Home, which received the Poetry Book Society recommendation and Wild Card Choice. Jenny is also currently editing a women's poetry anthology titled Woman Mapped. Jennifer Wong.
Thank you very much for inviting me and including me in this festival. This is so wonderful to be with you all, and thank you for all the organizers and Imtiaz, and it's an honor to be here. So I will start reading from my collection, which one of the poems, it's actually from commissioned by Nature Matters, which is a very vital and important anthology on eco-poetry, published by Faber last year. And I'm very grateful to the editors, Mona Arshi and Karen McCarthy-Wolf, for producing, and also all the contributors. Meanwhile, the sea. Meanwhile, the sea moves as we move, carrying her train of thoughts, her jewels, her longings and griefs. It's been so long since the last seismic shift, and we know it. Each year she rises, tangential, a trick in the eye, something to laugh about, to shrug off. I grew up in a city of coastal jewels, oysters, clams, shrimps, fish and sea urchins. Meanwhile, she moves as we move. She swallows more, tons and tons of our insatiate need for plastic. Each year, the snow bear will stand on a smaller sheet of ice, looking towards a hazy, distant future. Now think of the garden below, this surface for feelings. Don't look at me. Just think of the sun-facing kelp beds that cling to rocks, of the red algae, the color of autumn from 500 million years ago, of sargassum that floods the beaches, chokes, displaces the sea corals, who feel our stress before we do. And we must map the ocean faster before it goes. Oh, you never saw those shows of fish, the carp, the grouper, the pomfret, the golden threadbare bream. Meanwhile, what did they bury? I'll just put it here, just remind myself of the time. So I think also wanted to share with you this poem, especially for this festival, because was listening intently to the introduction just now, and I thought like many shops and places run by people of color or migrants, I feel especially like a connection with them. And so like in a way, we talked about change earlier, so it's like how societies and communities change. Dream Street. It wouldn't have made sense to go back, not even for a nostalgic visit. The houses have been torn down, I've heard, by bulldozers. Each cobblestone laboriously hurled off the street. The rich have moved in to a street of mansions and private gated gardens. The magnolia trees were gone. Don't ask me how. The grocer, run by a kind Sikh, was the last to go. On his last day, he gave away the fruits for free. So many mangoes and lychees left. It wouldn't have made sense even to go back to snap a picture. The rich wouldn't allow it. There's a sign right there. Trespassers, penalty 5,000. But each time, each count of magnolia bears the size of hope. Trying to find my piano poem. So I think running along that line, I was thinking about London. I used to live in London as well. I now live near London. But I think what happens is sometimes I think the different places, the different regions of London, and how especially migrants, their stories are really touching for me. Like I think they're really fundamental in the society. Piano. Its shiny black and white keys, the deep, rich sound hidden and therefore and rising. How much it means to me that now the majestic piece is finally yours. All those countless hours at midnight, finding one that came with the weighted keys, so that you can play more confidently. All my friends were privileged to reach grade 8, and then arriving at someone's detached house on a quiet residential road, waiting for them to open the door to let us in. The family selling it has since moved back home, to India, I mean. There it was, the shiny creature. Patiently, we disassembled it as best we could so that it would fit into the Uber I booked. Then the long, long journey home under a starless sky, you and I, in the back seat of the cab, the piano on our laps. It's almost 9 at night, and I could see you getting sleepy. It was almost funny, this wait. I looked out of the cab window, wished I could give you more from this life, more art especially, which is what I live for. It's getting pitch dark. Trying hard to find some. Okay, this is also somewhat to do with eco. And so there was a month or two when I was staying with an old lady, and she's extremely knowledgeable on gardening, and unlike me, which is extremely unknowledgeable about gardening, but I do my best to learn the tricks. Tending, These months in May, when everything feels tentative, Roseanne and I have been tending to the lawn, twisting off unwanted weeds and overgrowth. From time to time, she does more repotting. And if you look more closely, you will see how the plants have been moved from place to place. The garden is never the same. The new blooms are still too tender for storms, so we give them the best chance to survive. Good soil, the right amount of sun, the plenitude of water. Roseanne tells me that I must water until water comes from the bottom of the terracotta barrel. And no, you won't drown the plants by giving them what they need for the week of sun. My favorites are the peonies and hyacinths. Their generous, glowing leaves, tender wind-blown petals like they were about to talk and tell you who they met yesterday or get you into an esoteric conversation you weren't expecting. I put more names to living things: hollyhocks, azalea, belegia, ranunculus. I learned to accept things that cannot be named and let them grow anyway. This May, when everything or nothing happened to me in the midst of this life. Part of the book has to do with my family history, and so I wanted to kind of like maybe read something a bit more lighthearted. So my mum and my dad, they are really keen about food, and so this kind of poem about recipe was written in response to, so many restaurants that they brought us to when we were children, and also the strange habits or assumptions from parents. Recipe for acceptance serves 2 ingredients: 2 tablespoons of filial piety, 3 cloves of calmness, perfection finely chopped, 400 grams politeness minced, a teaspoon of logic. Method: 1. Wake up before 8. Anything else is late. 2. If it rains, don't go out of the house wearing jeans. 3. Stay where you are and don't go out. 4. Sit down on the sofa and watch TV together. Resist the idea of picking up a book. Reading is subversive, antisocial. 5. In the house, make yourself useful. Wash the dishes, sweep the floor, wipe the walls with clean cloths, and fold up the laundry. Prepare yourself to be 別人的太太. 6. Accompany mum on her daily trips to the wet market. Navigate through the hubbub. Visit her favorite grocers. Can you give me a bunch of free onions, please? Look at the fishmonger, how he flicks off the sequin-like scales from the fish. 7. Married someone Chinese who lived close to home, preferably in Kowloon, so no cross-harbor travel is involved. Fingers crossed that he is a doctor or an accountant, someone reliable. 8. Whatever you do, don't leave her behind. 9. Travel back in time and don't resign from that job. Lap up the power, the security. Take out that suit from the wardrobe you haven't worn for years and put it on. She was so proud of you once. So I think I will just end with 2 poems. So I think, this one is about Hong Kong during the times of handover, and it was a very strange time, but all I remember was more about TV drama. Or I try to remember about the TV drama bit. And I think we all have our own diaries of what happened, because the history that was happened to the whole society also belongs to individuals. Diary. 1. I was sitting at home with Mum on the sofa watching Keigo and his love for his music, fan Masaki in God Please Give Me More Time, night after night. The lovers meet again in the rain with very little time left for each other. We call this bouquet, watching Japanese soap operas endlessly. Around 7 or 8 each evening, most families in Hong Kong were in their homes enjoying their bouquet time. 2. It's 28 degrees outside even though it's no longer summer. There's a lot of rain on the day, lots of tears shed in the ceremony of 2 flags, one raised, one lowered. You can no longer post a letter with a stamp showing the Queen's face. 3. The year I watched God Please Give Me More Time, I got a letter embossed with gold telling me that I won an air ticket to do 3 years in England, nothing but reading Dickens and Eliot. I reread the letter over and over again next to the water fountain outside Prince's Building in case there's a mistake. I had wanted to leave home for so long. I felt weak in my knees. 4. My mother's childhood home on that distant mountain became a story. You trace on the map the name of a new town, Till Ganglang. What happened to my grandmother and auntie happened to the rest of them. Those who thought they would never leave the country, but they did. Those who boarded the ship decades ago, some who took the risk and stayed on board, dreaming of the Gold Mountain. Some settled down in this city, never Taiwan. I won't tell you what happened to my grandmother's little house with a zinc roof, their dog Xiaogou, so loyal, a village dwelling built brick by brick, facing the sea. 5. To have lived through 1997, where the song played one last time as the British ships left the harbour, they said today is a day of celebration, not sorrow. 6. We had steamed fish and stir-fried choy sum for dinner. After dinner, I would study for my A-levels at the dining table, where the rest of my family watched the latest TV episode, The File of Justice. 7. Why do we have to study both Chinese history and world history? What is the difference between them? For Chinese history, we retrace all the way from the last Emperor Puyi to the Boxers. We learn in Western history, we learn about Mussolini with his glaring eyes and his strange hat, Napoleon who hid his hand in his coat. We lumped all the other countries outside China into one single word, the West. 8. That year, too many families left and the sky was restless. Okay, I just finished with a very short poem. It's about America. I also got some plants in it. Field Notes at the Guggenheim. It's been ages since I last visited. Back then, I was on a field trip. They were showing Namjoon Paik, who was not so famous as he is now. A college friend and I got a travel fund that year to document our views of the city with photographs. That's a good reason to see New York. Her family kept sending her latte choco pies, which she shared with me, as I never received anything. Each term, she made lots of rather shocking and dangly sculptures that were hard to understand and very heavy to shift. But the exhibition this time round is called A Poem for Deep Thinkers, Epic Paintings, Epic Furniture, Epic Plants. I thought it funny how Rashid came up with this, the expansive space of the interior, the absence of corners, all annotations kept to a minimum. Sunlight pours in from the above. Maybe some people are much easier to talk to or to listen to. We walk up and down the rotunda. Do some plants share similar wavelengths? Do they water all the plants each day without fail? The massive plants are so different from the bonsai, your mother's bonsai. She must be a very loving person. Their liveliness and succulent leaves astound me. And the poem itself forms itself in the air, and a few deep thinkers move through a deep space without stairs. Thank you.
I feel very lucky because every year Rahul and Niloufar give me this lovely job of choosing some of my favorite poets to read today. So Robert Sita, our next poet, has published 9 poetry collections and has won many awards and nominations, including the National Poetry Competition, the London Poetry and Forward Poetry Prize. As an arts professional, he's chaired both the Poetry Trust and the Poetry Archive, and also his day job as head of BBC History at the BBC. His most recent collection is River, and it explores the magnetic and timeless pull of the River Thames in our lives. Robert Sita.
Let the slides begin. Yeah.
It's got to be done.
Do I just click?
Yeah.
just organising the river. But meanwhile, it's fantastic to be back here at this lovely festival and to celebrate such an important theme and to be part of Imtiaz's poetic coterie. So, we're here to celebrate river, and rivers are such an important thing. They're the lifeblood of our lives, they connect us with the natural world, they freight our human stories, and they chart past, present, and future. And it's a special year, this year for the River Thames, but I'm celebrating all rivers because it is the 30th anniversary of the Thames Path. Many of you may not know, but the Thames Path is really a big World War II post-war initiative to give the environment, to give nature back to everybody. And I'm just a very small part of the anniversary year. I'm poet in residence on the river, and I was asked to write 30 short poems that go from the source to the sea, that evoke really why the river is so important to everybody. I didn't get a boat. I was hoping for a boat, but they didn't give me one. But so I'm going to celebrate with you today just some of the poems I've written. And let's begin with the sound of the river. Are you travelling with me? So to set the scene, a little bit of etymology. Who knows where the word Thames comes from? I know you're a cultural glitterati here. No? Well, you'll know at the end of this poem. This is the opening poem in the book called Thames, meaning dark and darkness. Then upriver, meaning melt and flow. Then changing to Isis, a broken piece of the word Tamesis. Though for years I thought it the Egyptian god of magic, as I punted my adolescent boat awkwardly downriver, too in love with words. Waking years later to pieces of darkness, little gods, rare flotsam, and the repeating memory of water. And water is profoundly in our memory. And I'm going to take you on a journey from source to sea. So the River Thames, I learned such a lot doing this project. The river is 200 miles long, and it begins in the middle of nowhere in a field in the Cotswolds. And then it goes through the city and out to the sea. So are you ready for the journey? I don't know if anyone's been to the source. It's in a tiny place called Shrewsbury Mead near Kemble. And some people may be lucky and find this when they go. But when I went, I found this. No river, no water, not even a trickle. And for 10 months of the year, this is what you find, and the river is underneath. But there is an insatiate curiosity for rivers, where they begin. Think of the Nile, think of the Amazon, and the Thames is exactly the same. So my first poem in the trail, which you can find as you go along the river on QR codes on the posts, is about this desire to find the source. It mentions two names in it, Lidwell and Seven Springs, because the source for many years was completely contentious. But finally, it was won by Shrewsbury Mead. Source. We all need beginnings to say, I was there. To begin with a stir, a trickle, a gush, then own the journey of river and time. But the flat field here is inauspicious. Nothing to show for 10 months of the year. Oh, I could go to Lidwell or to Seven Springs, where they battled for the title of head of the river. But I'd rather believe in where I am. A stone and a bench to mark this place. Rather believe that beneath me the river counts its days, stays patient and deep, waits to be knowable. And it is strange because you stand there and you look at that and you think, from this comes the mighty Thames of time and history, of city and memory. So this is a short meditation on rivers' beginnings and ends. It's called The Message, where it comes from. The idea of a green meadow, unreal green meadow in Canary Wharf, where walkable earth no longer exists, and there's no damp silence of things simply slowly growing. Where it's going. That idea of distance, call it far away, that issues like a memory, unreal memory. For the map of those continents is rolled up and gone. Its rivers all run blood brown. But on some days, there's a scent of something in the wind. Richer than gold nutmeg, aphrodisiac cinnamon. When the wooden floors of the old wharf houses creak and bend, and the river remembers. So, there are loads of famous, illustrious, memorable places that sort of have become part of our memory as you go along the Thames. But I didn't want to cite the obvious again. I wanted to reveal new things, which is what poetry does so well. So, for example, I went to Richmond, which is the famous vista. This is the only river vista in the UK which is recognised by an Act of Parliament in 1902. But what some people don't realise, that once a year the river is drained or dredged, so you can literally walk across the riverbed, a bit like a contemporary Jesus. And of course, the absence of river makes you think of its presence. So this is the river's not there. Kids in bright yellow Macs are walking across it, making a small miracle, because they can. Shallow puddles, mudlark finds are glinting on the riverbed, space filling the space because the river's not there. We are holding our ear to the uncanny silence, tasting the stopped rush of it in the hollow of our mouth. We are remembering river, its always there rhythm, pulse like our own, absence inside our head. And similarly, I went to Windsor. I didn't want to write about royalty and castles. I wanted to write about Hindu water burials, because this is a site where often ashes are scattered. This is a very particular site, but also Kingston upon Thames, Leigh-on-Sea, where the Thames is twinned with the Ganges as a sacred river. And in this poem, I describe a biodegradable urn, water urn, in technical specification, intercut with the messages to the beloved, as the ashes are cast into the River Thames, into the River Ganges, into the rivers of the world. Biodegradable water urn, designed for burial of ashes in water. I give her to the water. Handcrafted from sustainably resourced material. I give her to the Thames. Adult dimensions, 35.5 centimetres by 31.5 centimetres by 7.5 centimetres. I give her to the Ganges. Urn supplied with biodegradable water-soluble bag. I give her to the rivers of the world. Urn floats on the surface for about 5 minutes. I give her to let her go. Once below the surface, urn breaks down naturally. I find her everywhere. Personal stories. This is me. Can you guess who I am? I'm in the front row, right in the middle. This is my primary school. I'm age 10 at Kingston upon Thames, King Athelstan Primary School, where my mum actually also taught. And one day, the class teacher came rushing into the room and said, "The River Hogsmill's in spate." And the River Hogsmill was at the bottom of our playground. It's a tributary of the Thames. And I remember thinking, wow, a river has a whole language of its own in spate, in flood. And also, it's mercurial, it's changeable. And we all have our river histories. So this is a short poem called My River History. Born upon you, knowing you as just another suburban road, your tiny tributary running at the bottom of our school playground. One day in spate, announced our teacher, and I collected these new words for you, changeable, quicksilver, never staying in the hand. Later, rowing on you, cold, foggy, student-head mornings, ineptly battling oars against the surprising force, the unknown future of you. Then leaving to live in river-blind cities, concrete piled on concrete, the unflowing space of no river, no wave, nowhere. Then back to you a stranger, counting the bridges over you, workaday comings and goings, on some days the precarious glint and glitter, the rare rediscovering you. Then here right now, diving in through years of waist-high grass to murk and mud and startled mallard, finding the old grass-green light of you. But many people go to the river for nature. That's the big magnetic draw. And people told me about when they go rowing, they feel so close to the river, almost as if they're inhabiting the world, the aqueous world of the river. And then there are hidden places like this one. This is the Wetland Trust in Barnes, right in the middle of the city. 180 different birds migrate and coast and wait here, and it's a place full of water, almost as if we were going back to something elemental. This is wetland. I followed the river to the wetland. I left the city to find where we come from. An otter swam in a coat of water. 1,000 birds rose in a cloud of silence. I followed the river to the wetland. I left the city to find where we return to. But it's also about activity. The river is embodied in our lives, placed in our lives because of the activities we do. We walk, we swim, we row, we fish. And when I interviewed the walkers, the word they kept using was pilgrimage. The river is like a meditative walking pilgrimage. So here's a short poem inspired by that called Pilgrim. And here are the walkers. To set off in the dark, to try to remember morning-made plans, follow the stranger river, veer on and off the path, distracted by pylons, lazy circles of a red kite, to be silent, to listen to heart, gut, the stranger body, to dodge the rain, feel runnels of sweat down my back, the blisters on my feet, my unfamiliar marching feet, to count the steps, forget the steps, to pick up litter, carry it with me, leave behind in a ready dustbin, to catch the new strange moon between skyscrapers, try to remember all the strange moons, to follow the familiar river, feel river, under river, forget river, to notice a new blue everywhere. And that was the revelation of this project, that when I talked to people about a river, within a minute they were telling me everything about their lives. It had this extraordinary ability to slip imperceptibly, directly, easily into metaphor. How am I doing on time, okay? Yeah. And there's a short poem about that metaphorical transformation, the thing about a river. You can make it anything. That's the thing about a river. Mutable, travelling, here and gone. It's time, drawn out, days and years, or just a long blue brushstroke of watercolour paint, taking 1, 2, 3 seconds to dry. It's space too, my arms inside it, shifting it across my body, making a tiny volume in this world. And of course it's love. Every song too ready on my lips, crying rivers of it, skating down it, rocking its boat, rocking it, and you escaping me but never really leaving, though days I wish you would, days I wish I could unriver you. So, here we go, swing, fish. And I don't want you to think this is a prettification. The book does deal with the despoliation of the river, the ruination, the anger people feel about that, as our rivers are changed and transformed for the worse. But we eventually arrive at Woolwich. And I don't know if I speak for you, but I knew about the Thames Barrier in theory, but I didn't really know how precarious our lives are, how this extraordinary object defends the city, the capital, from devastation on a regular minute-by-minute basis. So this is particularly when the storms come, spring storms. This is called Storm Surge, and it's about the Thames Barrier at Woolwich. When storms come with spring tide, when the high winds rise, when a wall of water travels up the Thames, when 45 square metres of land is covered, hospitals, power stations, the London Underground, when the city sinks, when thousands drown, while we wake and work and sleep and dream, how little we know. Made of concrete and steel, 520 metres wide, a barrier against it all, while we sleep and dream. And finally, we arrive at the sea. The Thames path actually goes to Woolwich, and then it extends now right out to the Isle of Grain. And it transforms itself into a whole other world. This is the last poem in the book, the last poem in the trail, called Throw It. like a rope, a kite, a snake, a shirt, its long arms waving away, away. Now it's lifted, caught, slid, undone. This is river out of reach, loosened, lost, become. This is sea. And here's the book, which is available now, hot off the press. It also comes with lovely illustrations by my artistic collaborator, Jessica Palmer, which really capture these water encounters and the dynamic of the river. Here's a couple. And also, final call to action. At the end of the year, I'm writing a community poem. So if any of you would like to contribute to it, just send me 3 short words or a specific memory that's vivid or a message for the river to robertseater@hotmail.com. I will incorporate you into my community poem celebrating the River Thames, but also the rivers of our lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert, for taking us along this path of the river of our lives. I'll read just two poems today, and this one's called A Land. Before the great clock chimed for noon, midnight, noon, before the traffic lights, the neon, on, off, on, before the flags were flown or torn or taken down, before the land was owned or known by any name, the story was already written in the stone. You slid in with the tide, gasping for air, your hair heavy with moss animals, alive with pearl and ammolite. Could stone do justice to your body? It learned from the movement of the sun, watched the face of the moon all night, then filled your dips with shadow and washed your lips with light. When it looked as if the flood would never pass, the land moved like a person leaving, never looking back, trailing coral and sea lily in its wake over the vast water. Here, after storm and ice, was an arrival. One body collided with another. Both leaned in, aching, till the meeting became an embrace. One stroked the other's flank, and time felt it as a newborn baby's cheek. Because time writes itself in rock, and rock is its own language. Because the swamp gathers small bodies in its lap and sings to them. Because out of the rubble, bones will speak back. Because the bell waits to ring out from a single shell. Because it tells their names and tolls for you. Because an ear uncoils from ammonite and hears the best and hears the worst. Because quickened mountains rise and fall and rise again. Because their breathing leaves a memory in the lungs. Because stone has turned and turned in its bed and has known grief. Because after all, when grey gives way to green and marks another age when darkness ends and light begins, even this hand of millstone grit could hold a land of dreams. They say a land may start as rock, but ends as breath. They say even rock moves if you stay to watch it long enough. And my second poem, I don't know how many of you came here today on the Underground. Anyone? Yeah, okay. So this one is called The Elephants Are on the Piccadilly Line. And it was written for SOAS with special mention to Rachel, who's a great elephant lover. The elephants are travelling on the underground, tilting gently as the train careens. No one sees them, all the heads bent down to worship information on small screens. Perhaps the elephants wonder at how still the people sit, or how the light shines blue through human eyelashes, or admires the digital skill on keyboards, too neat for elephant toes, too small for trunks. Google cannot contain the wisdom of elephants. The whole of the internet cannot fathom one spark of the elephant brain. So they come swaying through Russell Square to set foot here, tail to trunk, trunk to tail, like aliens, like gods who may not fail. Thank you. Thank you. And my lovely task now is to introduce the great Daljit NAGRA, Professor of Creative Writing at Brunel University of London, a lead advisor on Poetry by Heart. He presents the weekly Poetry Extra on Radio 4 Extra. He won the Forward Prize for Best Individual Poem and Best First Collection, the South Bank Show Decibel Awards, and the Chumley Award. The Guardian reviewer says, NAGRA is an astute cultural commentator, apt to combine knockabout comedy, literary allusion, and a keen sense of political injustice to challenging effect. He'll read today from his wonderful new book, launched just last week, called Usually. Daljit NAGRA.
Hello, everyone. I know we're running over, so I'll just read a couple of poems from my new collection. We were talking about storytelling earlier, and I guess I'm very keen to tell the story of my own background. My parents came over early 1960s. They were labourers, uneducated labourers who worked in the factories. And in a sense, their story hasn't really been written in any detail. With this, my latest collection, I sort of made it much more autobiographical. So most of my poems about growing up in a town near Heathrow Airport throughout the 70s. And then in 83, my brother and my parents bought a shop in Sheffield, so we left usually then. And yeah, so my mum's not educated, so she can't read or write, but she makes up for it by being incredibly feisty. She's quite terrifying, as you'll hear from this poem. Do you remember Lucozade when he used to have a cellophane wrapping? Yeah, and he used to take it to hospital if someone was ill, and if you didn't take it, it was like an insult, wasn't it? Or when you visit someone's house. So my mum told me to get a bottle of Lucozade when I was younger from the corner shop, and I went and got it, and I dropped it. So it's one of those errand poems. But her reaction is interesting, as you'll see in this poem. So I just called it Lucozade. It bound the town together, a gift for the hospital visit, a drink so classy, some raise it at home like a toast in a wine glass. Its wrapping nearly the colour of the saffron Sikh, bright as the salwar bottoms your mum wore, who'd call herself the marigold of God, in whom pure faith will never run dry. Its crinkly wrapping like a sweetie paper you touched with your fingertips to snap, crackle and pop. And here's you now, carrying a bottle all the way home. It's so big that its scrunched head becomes a bonfire flame, scratching your 5 or 6 year old chin. As you near the front door, it slips and smashes, the glass cutting through the gold leaf. You tell your mum what you've done. She doesn't slap you, but puts on her sandals, marching for the shop. You're breathless behind her. You bought it from the Indian shop, the only Indian shop in your town. And she's been mumbling some stuff about a cleaner caste Sikh. Back home, his lot clean the Lucozade glasses of our landowner caste. Then she's in his shop and at him. You took my son's money, but you didn't give him the bottle. I'm not leaving till. He's telling her to leave, and she says, how dare he diddle her son? She's got a voice sharp and heavy as a scythe in your garden, like the one she swung on the farms of her milk-teeth years. He tries to ask you about the bottle you took, but she won't have him speak to you. The customers who aren't Indian at all frown at all these foreign words being raised, and he keeps shuffling his scared-looking glasses, then says, "Take a bottle and leave," then actually brings one to rest on the counter and watches her take her time as she takes it. From the front steps, you clear up the mess. The whole scene as you lift the carbonated shards is a golden vomit. What happens, she'll say, when you let things slip through your hands? Okay, thank you. Thank you. I guess that was almost like a metaphor for carrying the dome of Sikhism, and I did drop it, and I've been a terrible Sikh, as is visibly apparent. I'll read one more then. So this is when I was younger. Like, you know, when you go to school, I mean, we spoke Punjabi at home, so I only learnt English when I went to school, and you know, it's very traditional lives. My family's, my house, and the house I lived in, it was 3-bedroom semi with lots of our relatives living in the house. You know, every room was taken up with people sleeping there and working 7 days a week in the factories. So I guess when I went to school, everything was so difficult, and I had a friend, and I could turn to him to ask him things, you know, in secret, and he'd just tell me stuff. So it's really a tribute to that kind of friend. His name is Nigel. Okay, so in a sense now, I feel I'm going to go around the country detoxifying that name, because there's another Nigel, isn't there? This Nigel's a very nice Nigel. Okay. Or understanding, respectful. So Nigel, you knew the most English of all your family, yet you needed your friend Nigel for the things school assumed home taught you. You trusted him with his flat fair hair and breath warm as rolled Play-Doh. Like the best teachers who never mimicked you, he schooled you on how tennis scores mad tallied, and you tried it with hands for rackets in his garden, pushing against the fluff of a tennis ball. He never tired and taught you the offside rule, and his love of the muddy Welsh rugby team, go JPR, go Gareth Edwards. His house was on your road, on Otterfield Road. You'd knock for him on the way to school and ask about a phrase some boy dropped in chat that made him sound like a dad puffing on a pipe. You knew he'd never raise his voice to shame you as you turned the corner for the playground. Nigel, what's a signature? It's your name you write in a really silly way. Yes, Nigel, to which you both giggle. Nigel, what's paracetamol? A medicine you take when you're not sure of yourself. Paracetamol. Yes, Nigel. Your yes, a command to yourself to shelve the meaning as you'd heard it. Nigel, what's donkey's years? I'll ask my dad. Yes, Nigel. No one in your family knows their real birth date or the big deal about it. Nigel, what's a birthday? It's when you blow out candles on a cake. Yes, Nigel. A field sweet as a birthday cake had laid its turf in you both, where you could learn friendship. Nigel, what's hard shoulder? An alias? What's a Christmas tree for? Or Mufti Day? Not so scared of school anymore. A further and final question you ask of Nigel. In donkey's years, when you're both old and wise and ready for the hard shoulder, can you still ask him the hardest ever questions? Putting his hand on the jumper of your shoulder and actually looking into you with his hazel eyes, I will always be by your side. Yes, Nigel. Thank you very much. Thank you.